pleasant good afternoon. Gabe Farias and Dr. Daniel H. Kellum Jr. from Kellum Family Medicine. It is time for the KellumMD.com video podcast where we talk about a myriad of issues. Last time I used the word plethora and everybody gave me crap for it. Can I see this? Can I say that C word? Is that okay? Crap? Okay. Well, I got all kinds of kerfuffle. Also spelled with a C. Yeah. For using plethora. So I'm going to use, what word did I use right now?
Myriad.
A myriad. We talk about a lot of health and wellness issues. And Dr. Kellum, first of all, how are you doing?
Doing good, Gabe.
You look like you're dropping some weight.
Thanks, Gabe.
Thank you for saying that I look like I'm dropping weight too. I really appreciate that. Normally when you give me a compliment back.
Your hair is looking thick.
That's so mean. My hair is like the Christmas tree from the Charlie Brown's Christmas. Every time I get tugged on, it goes ding, 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 like little pine needles just start to fall out. I am on the Daniel Kellum fast track is what I am. Dr. Kellum, right now, weather's changing. Today's the first day I actually got to break out the old, pullover because it was cold. Cold and flu season is coming up. We want to talk about the importance of. Did I say the podcast is brought to you by KellumMD.com? I think I got off track.
Yes, you did.
Sponsored by KellumMD.com. Visit KellumMD.com to book an appointment, to check status of all kinds of things. It leads you straight to the portal. KellumMD.com is where you can check on a multitude of things for any of the clinics. Kellum Aesthetics and Wellness, Kellum Family Medicine, and Kellum OBGYN of San Antonio.
That's right.
Flu shots.
Yes.
Back to flu shots. My ADHD medicine is not.
It's got to kick in soon.
You would think it would kick in sooner or later.
Or wearing out.
Yeah, or wearing out, one of the two. So, right now, people are going to be getting sick. They're going to be getting the sniffles. They're going to be getting a cold. How important is the flu shot? Because you hear people say, it's not that important anymore. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, it's very important, actually. And so, we've been through an era in the last few years with COVID and with a number of other things that really have created the need for vaccinations, or at least the opportunity to be vaccinated, I should say. And, everybody chooses whether or not that's appropriate for them or not. What we're seeing, though, unfortunately, is a little bit of fatigue that comes associated with that. But I think
like vaccination fatigue,
in terms of that, yeah. But and understandable to a degree. But what I would say is that I think we have known, and it's pretty tried and true, that the flu shot has done a really great job for people. Now, sometimes when people get it, they feel a little sick from that, or they say that they got the flu after they got the vaccine. Truly, you can feel a little bit achy after that, but it is very important. And why I think it's really important is because, we see about, 5,000 deaths a year, plus minus, when it comes to flu across the U.S. And so it's not an insignificant issue. And if you got underlying respiratory issues, asthma, emphysema, or just elderly over the age of 65, the need for the vaccine is there because it really does mitigate the risk of hospitalizations and duration of the illness itself.
Do you think that it's important for everybody? Do you think it's really super important for seniors to get the flu shot?
Super important for seniors to get the flu shot. But across the board, what we see in kids and younger adults is really spread among either school or we see spread in the workplace. And honestly, it's tough to feel sick for a week. It's high fevers, it's chills, it's body aches. And if we could do something to try to keep that from being an issue, because even in the younger population, although risk for hospitalization death is super small, it can happen. And so as preventative care individuals, we really try to do anything and everything we can in tried and true methods that really do help mitigate that issue.
So on my team at Jaeger FC, I've got one senior citizen in Mark, okay? And I've got two younger guys. I got two millennials. Is it important for them? Are they strong enough? Is their immune system strong enough to not need the flu shot? I got a 25-year-old and a early 30s.
For the most part, I would say yes. I would step back and say everybody's different, so you got to look at your case individually, and I would ask you to talk to your primary care provider about that, because I think care should be individualized to the person. Generally speaking, however, 25-year-olds do have immune systems that tend to fight that pretty well. But it's the one-off or two-offs that happen to get really, really sick,
Yeah.
and or, God forbid, death that you think, oh, my God, that could have been preventable.
Yeah. Why take a chance, right?
That's right. And so, again, you leave that to the individual situations. And I think these are always conversations you need to have with your primary care doctor to really see if it's applicable to your situation. But as a rule, I would say it's something that people should strongly consider getting done.
What do you tell people? And I know you kind of touched on it, but what do you tell people that say, well, if I get the flu shot, I'm going to get the flu?
I think setting expectations, understanding that it's an attenuated virus. So we're introducing remnants, so people can get sick with that. And it's achiness, but that's your body. That's your body beginning to build the antibodies against the flu, and that's an important kind of thing to do. And so, if you look at a day or so of feeling achy and maybe slightly feverish versus a full blown episode,
Oh, I know.
I think the risk is probably worth the reward. What we see though in these days is that our flu shots have really gotten very precise in terms of the strains that are coming around, and people tolerate them very well, quite frankly. It's not an absolute, but it's certainly much better than it used to be, in my opinion.
Are flu shots multi-strain vaccines now?
They are. So typically what happens is you look at what happens south of the equator in their winter, we understand what those strains are. Those are typically the strains that come to the U.S. in our winter, and so they tend to prepare them, and make them to the most prevalent strains that we're seeing. Now, can there be years where flu seasons are a whole lot worse? Absolutely. And there are some years where it's very minimal. And so it's hard to predict that. But for the most part, they've gotten the flu vaccine, I think, pretty right on with that.
Other vaccines right now, because I know that I got a call from a friend of mine who said, hey, I'm going to get another COVID booster. I mean, we're 2 or 3 or 4 boosters in. I had 2, and I've had COVID once, and it was like the sniffles. Our body's building that type of resistance to that, or is it still kind of iffy, if you will?
So I don't know how much. I think some of it is our body's building resistance, but I think the biggest issue is really the evolution of the virus to a strain that's less problematic in terms of hospitalizations and deaths. When you get it, what we have been seeing, at least in our practice this year, is 3 or 4 days of maybe fever, achiness, kind of a bad upper respiratory infection. The typical coronavirus, a cold virus that we used to see in the past. And so it's not as problematic, but it still bothers people. As far as the vaccine is concerned, I think in that one, that's something that you should speak to your primary care doctor about. Certainly if you have had COVID, you don't want to get it for that 90-day period afterwards.
Yeah.
But I think this is one of those things that really does require a conversation with your doctor about that. And not because it's safe or unsafe, it's just understanding whether or not it's effective for you and making sure that you have that choice to get it if you so choose. But I think in these times,
Talk to your doctor, basically.
Right, there's a lot of applicability to that, and it's got to be individualized for sure.
Okay, so getting back to the flu vaccine,
Right.
One of the questions I wanted to ask you that slipped my mind was if somebody says, I'm allergic to chicken, or I'm allergic to eggs, or if there's allergens in are there different variations of flu vaccines to help you fight it? Or
if you have an issue with eggs, that's one of the things that where I think that you need to go with that really is that we would often send people to the allergist to be able to understand where their sensitivity is and whether or not they should be able to get that or not. But that's the conversation with your primary care that you need, because often these vaccines are propagated in something like that, so that they can develop that. And so you really do need to speak to your primary care provider about that if that is your situation, so that we can really understand the true reaction, how bad it was, and certainly if there is a risk or reward to getting the vaccine.
eggs, I would be devastated if I found out I was allergic to eggs. It is my 4th favorite type of poultry-produced food.
What are the top 3?
Chicken gizzards, number 1. Why did you look at my belly when I said that?
It was more your neck.
That was both problematic and a little creepy. I'm not going to lie. I like white meat, and then I like dark meat, and then I like the patas, the legs. Have you ever done like true Mexicans? Daniela, Mexicans eat chicken feet, right?
Really?
She's looking at me like, why are you asking me that question? I have an employee who's from Oaxaca. She was born in the sugar fields of Oaxaca, Mexico.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyways, so let's see. I got lost. I lost my train. The whole train of thought that I was going to lead and end with is if you're feeling bad, get tested.
And that's a great point.
Yeah.
Often you don't make, but in this particular one, that is a
Yeah.
really great point because if you're having upper respiratory symptoms, go in and get seen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because often we can do rapid tests that really understand whether it's flu, whether it's COVID, whether it's RSV, and then we can apply applicable treatments to that so that we can make sure we're doing the right thing for you. And so, often people just kind of write it out. But I think it's really important because some of these things can spread to other family members or elderly people, and you just kind of want to know what's happening with that. And so I do really advocate for people getting in, getting seen, and being tested because knowing what you have as opposed to guessing what you have is a really big deal in my opinion.
And one of the cool things about Kellum here in Shirts is that you have a standalone lab.
That's right.
And you have different levels of testing to check whether you have COVID, whether you have strep, whether you have the flu. Talk about the testing mechanism that you have here.
So we do PCR testing, which really it's a test that really is specific for the individual. Either bacteria that you can get in these upper respiratory infections or the viruses that you can get in these upper respiratory infections, or whether or not there's a mix. And so it works really well because you can apply the antiviral medicines that you may need depending on what virus it is, or you can use the antibiotic if there is an underlying bacterial infection, which I think is important because then you're not overutilizing antibiotics when not necessarily, and you're treating appropriately the virus that you find. And so the testing and the specificity of the testing that we do, and a lot of people do, but we here at Kellum Family Medicine do, really does make a difference in terms of how we tailor treatment to the individual disease.
Thanksgiving is coming up.
Yeah.
What's your favorite type of turkey and how it's cooked?
Fried.
Really?
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, I like the
Love a good
fried
turkey. About blew up my house in the south side trying to. Folks, if you're going to fry a turkey, make sure
careful.
you know what you're doing.
And we can handle burns
Yes.
as well.
Yeah, this was gone. Like, it's just now growing back. That's why I'm bald.
That's going back?
Define growing back.
Exactly.
Right? I like a good smoked turkey. You know what, though? My new form of cooking turkey is to spatchcock it. Have you ever spatchcocked a turkey?
Never say that.
No, it's spatchcock. You butterfly it. You with the breast plate. You crack it and you lay it out. Stick it in there. I'm telling you, folks, Google spatchcocking a turkey. It'll change your life.
It certainly changed the conversation.
It did. All right, Dr. Kellum, thank you so very much, folks. Get tested, get checked. If you're feeling bad, come on down to Kellum Family Medicine locations in Shirts, in Bergheim. Soon to be a location out on Braun and 1604, getting close to opening that location. And your dad's clinic over off of Marbach Road. You can get care citywide at Kellum Family Medicine or Kellum Medical Clinics. Folks, for Dr. Daniel H. Kellum, also visit KellumMD.com to set up those appointments. Call 210-945-2121 or visit KellumMD.com, the sponsor for this podcast. For Dr. Daniel H. Kellum Jr., I'm Gabe Farias, folks. Stay healthy.